Hey guys, it's GirlGotGame with my final thoughts on Blankspace. Before continuing, keep in mind that this review will have spoilers in it, so if you don't want to be spoiled, I suggest picking up Blankspace yourself to check out first. It's a great game, and I'd recommend it to anyone who enjoys a good mystery visual novel. Also, I did receive this game for free from the developers, so if you feel that this would bias my review in any way, do keep that in mind as well going forward. Now, without further ado, here's my final thoughts on Blankspace. I absolutely enjoyed every moment of playing this game. Yes, even the moments where I was trying to cheat my way through spot the difference puzzles, or reading a certain embarrassing patch that I may or may not have been pressured into reading. But seriously, this game was a wonderful experience. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. Ever since I checked out the demo for this back in November of 2019, I was super intrigued by the setting of this game. There's so much mystery to the setting, and so I guess the first thing I could talk about is the story. The story is very well done. You're definitely rewarded for playing through to get the other endings, so I'd highly recommend doing all of the endings. And this isn't just my OCD completionist self-talking, I swear. Each ending and the choices you make to get to those endings reveal more and more facets to not only the story, but also the two characters, Chris and Beryl. You really get a good look at their best and worst sides depending on what choices you make, and it really helps to flesh them out as characters. They feel very real and genuine, and some of my favorite moments in this game are when these two characters are just taking the time to communicate with each other. It feels so real and natural. Even when the crap hits the fan. I was blown away by the fact that these two characters were just willing to sit down, talk things out after throwing a few bottles and stuff. But no, seriously, they talk things out instead of just letting it fester or giving the silent treatment to one another, which is so aggravating in some stories. So I appreciated that. There's not enough good communication in games, or in real life for that matter either. But I really appreciated those moments very much. Of course, there would be a wee bit of romance here too, and that was handled very well also. It felt very natural between these characters. I love them both to bits, and they complement each other very well. Both mischievous, have very tender sides that they hide beneath tough exteriors. They've both been through a lot, and they're able to find some comfort in each other's presence. I definitely love the two of them as a couple, even if they are double the trouble when they're together. If I had any problems with story, it would only be that I wanted more of it, because gosh darn, I still have questions that need answering. But you can't really classify that as a complaint, because it's more of a need, if I'm being honest. Yeah, the game has just made me even more anxious for White Hard Woods at some point. I was already in love with Noah, and now after this game, I'm going to be bouncing off the walls until I'm able to do his route for sure. So there's that. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on the story. Now, onto the music. The soundtrack is lovely for this game. It really captures the mood well. There's a few pieces that really gave me an unsettled feeling for sure, which is perfect for the setting. But there's also some fun pieces as well, such as the underwear scene. That piece of music is probably my favorite. And I'd also be remiss not to mention the song A World of Black and White, which is sung by Sapphire. That song is so beautiful, and it plays during such a beautiful moment in the game. That was definitely one of the highlights of the game for me personally. I really love that song and the soundtrack in general. Also, really good audio and visual effects. All of that really brought life to the story and the characters. There's tons of poses and facial expressions that show off the emotions the characters are feeling very well. These things were done well in Soulset, the previous game, but I feel like it's become even more polished here in Blankspace. So awesome job on that side of things as well. And speaking of Soulset, there's actually quite a few Easter eggs hidden in this game for both Soulset and White Hard Woods. So that was a lot of fun to discover those little Easter eggs. That was really, really neat. Moving on to the art, it's gorgeous. I mean, not only the CGs, but the sprites, the backgrounds, the objects, everything's lovely to look at. I love the color scheme for this game so much. Very film noir with pops of color that make the characters really stand out. And not only does it give the game a nice style, but it's also integral to the actual plot of the story too, which I thought was exceptionally clever. So excellent job on the artwork as well. And from a technical standpoint, everything ran very smoothly. The visual novel aspect of things works flawlessly. While you can't scroll backwards and forwards through the text, there is a history tab, so you can view anything you might have skipped or missed while reading through, and you have the ability to skip through anything you've read previously. Of course, this wasn't purely a visual novel, though. There was also point-and-click puzzle elements to this, too. The inventory system was really neat. I loved being able to collect items and combine them to solve different puzzles. It was very satisfying. It did glitch on me a couple times, where if I had more than one item selected, it would only recognize that one of them was selected and not the other one if I wanted to interact with a certain object. So I'd have to deselect either one or both of the items and then select just the one item to interact with the object. But that was no problem. I just had to remember to do that. Otherwise, it worked flawlessly. Like Chris, I don't want to stroke Beryl's ego too much, but the puzzles were indeed very satisfying to solve. There was a level of difficulty involved, but it didn't involve any moon logic to solve, which was great. I was also personally pleased that there were a few math puzzles, since I adore math, so that was a lot of fun. The spot the difference puzzles were great. They were beautifully designed, by the by, and despite my efforts to cheat through them some of the time, just some of the time, I did enjoy doing them as well. And more than that, there's not too much more to talk about. I could talk about whether I liked Beryl or Chris more, but I mean, if I'm being honest, I'd be hard-pressed to choose between them. I love the both of them. They're such great characters, and I really hope that they show up or mentioned in future games. I don't really have roots to rank, per se, but as far as endings, I'd say that the true end is definitely my favorite ending, followed closely behind by the secret end. That was a lot of fun. My least favorite end was probably the sad end, and that's purely just because it took me a long while to figure out how to get to that ending. But I enjoyed all the endings, though, on some level for the insight they gave into the story and the characters, as I stated earlier. So I didn't dislike the actual ending from a story perspective. It was just the journey it took to get there, if that makes sense. But I think I've blathered on quite enough for this video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed listening to my final thoughts, and also that you enjoyed Blankspace as much as I did. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. A big thank you to the folks at No Bread Studio, Nehru, Zolf, Mist Mori, Marcianek, and Cleve Bentz. I hope I didn't forget anyone and that I pronounced those names correctly. If I did forget anybody, I apologize, but to everybody who was involved in the making of the game, a big congrats to you all. You all made an absolutely delightful game that I enjoyed the heck out of, and you should be very proud of yourselves. And I personally cannot wait until your next project, whatever it may be. But if you want to hurry along, you know, White Heartwood, so I can date my boy Noah, I won't be complaining. I'm just saying. But either way, I can't wait to play more games from you guys, so keep being awesome, keep doing the awesome job you're doing, can't wait. And to you, the viewer, thanks again for joining me for this. Also a big thank you for voting in the poll for our next game on Sundays. It was actually fairly close between the three. But I think we do have a clear winner here. So, starting next week, it looks like you want me to be spooked. I don't know why you'd want me to be spooked, but that's what the poll says. So, I'll be checking out The Letter by Yang Yang Mobile. So, hopefully, I'll be seeing you there for spoops and fun. But mostly spoops. Until then, guys, thanks again for watching, and I will see you later.